Hi, my name is Chelsea, and I am a trauma-informed somatic healer living in Canggu. I grew up in a normal family with an amazing mom and dad in America, and prior to moving to Bali, I had a great job, I was traveling the world with friends, and from the outside, you would have thought that I had it all. But the truth was, on the inside, I was numb, anxious about the future, unsure about who I was, desperately chasing the clock, and also chasing any sort of high I could find. I partied, I did drugs, I drank, I was a people pleaser, and I had no idea that I was carrying around so much trauma because in my head, everything was fine. What did I have to complain about? I had such a great life compared to others, so who was I to say that I had any pain? And then one day, I had a spontaneous spiritual awakening, and that really made me struggle with reality. I had been anti-God and anti-religion for a long time, but after experiencing the oneness, I started looking for answers. What the hell was that? It felt like I experienced an orgasm inside a lava lamp. I was light but heavy. I was held but free. I was everything and nothing. It was an indescribable thing that as a human being I had never experienced before. After my awakening, like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I met my first mentor, a modern-day shamanic medicine woman in the US, who taught me how to journey into my subconscious. I slowly faced the fears I had, and I became curious of my emotions. Each time I was courageous enough to journey into the spiritual realm, another layer of my life or a suppressed memory would come to the surface that I had no idea I was holding on to. Each time I was triggered in my present life, I was able to find more trauma from the past that was creating these emotions in the present. I truly began to look at life as a gift rather than a circumstance. And I started to see that these triggers were truly not happening to me. They were happening for me. I saw through this that I was never a victim. I was always a creator. And because of the past pain that I was holding on to, my future was bringing up more of that pain for me to become conscious of and make the choice to change it. It became a theme for many years that when I had pain with my family, with money, with my relationships, or with my physical body, I would dive deep. Each time I went a little deeper and I saw how the present pains were always somehow related to a deeper memory from the past. And in that present moment, I now knew I had a choice to release and heal from the past once and for all. I completely understand if this sounds super woo-woo, and trust me, I was nothing like this before, but I relate spirituality and awakening to taking the red pill in the matrix. Once you begin to see that there is so much more to life than the story you've been running, any resistance will continue to come to the surface as you truly can't turn around from the light once it begins calling you. My soul wanted to shine, and my body kept showing me more and more things from the past that I needed to let go of. And slowly, step by step, I saw life as a gift. And every trigger was an opportunity to heal. I did not want to be a victim any longer. I wanted to take hold of my life, and I wanted to be truly happy. Through facing the fear, I encountered so much trauma that I had no idea I was holding on to. I had so much pain from my parents' divorce and from their separations, from being bullied in school. I had sexual abuse that I didn't even know about as a very young girl. I had generational pain and cultural pain that I was carrying that wasn't even mine. And every day I uncovered more and more shame, guilt, and unworthiness. The big thing I knew I had to heal from was the rape that I went through when I was a young girl. After about a year of sitting with the emotion of shame, I finally went back to that memory and I was able to release anger. This was such a pivotal turning point in my healing journey as it was like my power came back. I began to see that I was not setting boundaries in fear of rejection. I was not speaking my truth in fear of abandonment. And it all connected to that dark memory. After I released the anger, it was like a giant weight lifted off my body. I was able to feel pleasure for the first time. During the pandemic, I was super lucky to live in Hawaii. I began to slow down a bit and I started to love spending time in nature. The sunshine was so healing. And in times of extreme darkness in the world, I was so peaceful. I was living the life of my dreams. I was connecting with the most amazing friends, and I was so happy. This was my first conscious experience with duality. I was meditating daily, and I was connecting to a higher purpose, and I started to believe I was truly worthy of love. I went back to Boston after the pandemic, and I was surrounded by so much fear propaganda. None of my family was seeing each other because of this. Everyone was so angry and so separated. I just couldn't understand how we were allowing this virus to separate us as human beings. And I struggled with all of my connections as I did not align with this fear. And I saw the beauty in the slowdown. When I was home, though, I fell madly in love with someone quite unexpected. He saw me for who I was, and for the first time, I had a man make me feel safe to be me. We tried long distance for quite some time, and it worked for us. He was able to do his thing, and I was busy traveling the world. But when we were together, it was truly magical. I decided I needed to move back to Boston to make things work. He told me not to move back for him, and I genuinely believed I was moving back for me. But after a short while, I started to have deep resentment. I started to see that this life in Boston was nothing like the one I was dreaming of. I hated the cold, I wanted children, and I wanted to travel. I wanted to be free. And if it was to work with him, I needed him to change, or I needed to change. And we both realized that as much as we loved each other, it wasn't fair to keep it going for either of us. And that's when I had my dark night of the soul. I had my biggest heartbreak of my life. I was helpless. Nothing made sense. I was living 5 minutes from my family. I had a house on the ocean, and I felt so alone. And I spent most nights crying myself to sleep in the bathtub, wondering how the hell I got here. I was angry at God. I was angry at him. I was angry at everyone. But truly, I was angry at myself because I always knew that I did not want to live this life. But I had such fear of rejection and fear of abandonment, and I hated being alone. So here I was, all alone. All I could do was face the fear, and I began to pray. I started to work with spirit on a regular basis. I began my morning and evening routine. I started to attune with the moon, and I was super curious about energy work and healing. I believed in God again. Something had drastically shifted. I began to struggle more with my normal life. I couldn't drink anymore. I was Irish goodbying. I couldn't do drugs as they made me sick. I started to need more time alone, and I started to see what relationships in my life were making me feel emotions that I really didn't want to accept any longer. It was a blessing and a curse, this awakening, because for the second time in my life, I was experiencing a loss of identity. I wasn't this party girl I thought I was. I wasn't someone who enjoyed being busy all the time. I didn't want to be out late. I wanted to talk about God and spirituality, but I still had a deep fear of rejection. I almost didn't travel to Bali, but then I had this ridiculous, horrendous ear infection that led me to being able to hear my own voice. And I started to hear myself saying, I was not going to go to Bali because I needed to settle down. I would never meet someone if I kept traveling. I should stay near my family and find someone to have a family with because I was running out of time. And I started to hear these thoughts that reminded me of a victim. That day, I did a shamanic journey with my mentor, and I saw the goddess Kali, and she showed me the road I was on and the road to Bali, and she said, "You're not listening." This was not my first time I'd interacted with the goddess in my practice, and I knew to take her seriously. And I saw that all my decisions were coming from fear, desperation, and not from love and inspiration. And the next day, I booked the trip to Bali with my girlfriends, and we left 3 days later. A lot happened in Bali. I felt exactly how I had felt in Hawaii, present. There was nowhere I wanted to be other than where I was. And I wished I could live here. On the last night, I had a little dog come into my villa, and I knew I needed to rescue her. I extended my trip to find a way to ship her back to the USA, and I walked into the pyramids of Chi up in Ubud that night alone for a healing session. This session changed my life. That little dog appeared in my meditation and told me that I thought I was saving her, but she was saving me. With my own breath, I was able to travel outside my body to that oneness and release so much pain. I didn't even know it was possible in 2 hours. I felt lighter, I felt free, and I felt so loved. 2 weeks later, I made the commitment to move to Bali to study this beautiful energy, and I committed to the shadow work. So I began studying with my mentor in the US on how to hold space shamanically and became a Reiki master. I worked with Kundalini energy for almost a year before I was certified so that I could truly embody the energy myself And now here I am, and I am so clear on my purpose for why all of that happened. My core calling in life is to share my fearless commitment to healing the past, to inspire a global community that liberates their soul, fucks their trauma, reclaims their power, and manifests their unique bliss. Because I know from my own experience that this work is transformative. Every single thing that I ever wanted, I now have, and I'm now building the life of my dreams, and I never thought this was possible. So I know that this process works, and I have dedicated my entire life to continuing to heal my pain so that I can help others find their unique bliss. And we all deserve to live the life of our dreams through energy work and healing the shadow, gently and slowly and with compassion, forgiveness, and love for ourselves. We can really start to cultivate the life we always wanted. The more that we heal ourselves and the more vulnerable we can be with ourselves, the more we can help heal the world. So right now I'm offering private one-on-one healings, group healings remotely and in person here in Canggu. And I offer deep shadow work for 3 and 6 month programs for full transformation. I offer retreats, and I'm publishing my book and workbook at the end of this year. And I'm truly just dedicated to my healing journey, as I will always share my authentic and vulnerable truth through my social media and my podcast, as I believe that this is the path to liberation, freedom, and living the life of your dreams.